Greetings, everyone. I'm glad you're here for another edition of Dr. Mac's Org Behavior Hack. I hope you're doing well. So today we're going to discuss two of the predominant theories of organizational behavior, particularly from the classical scientific management or management school. Our learning objectives in this edition are twofold. First, we are going to learn about Fayol's general principles of management, and second, we will discuss Gulick and Urwick's POSDCORB model to help guide public service professionals. Let's get started. Of course, looking at these theories is very important. If we can figure out how best to run organizations, businesses, and government agencies will be better able to reach their goals. As a reminder, Henri Fayol was an engineer and mining executive. He was likely influenced by Frederick Taylor, although Fayol developed a general theory of business administration rather than looking at industrial processes like Taylor did. Fayol stated that businesses perform several activities, services ranging from technical, commercial, and financial to security, accounting, and management. But he was most likely known for his 14 recommendations of management and administration. Let's look at each one of these principles he promoted for businesses. Fayol's first recommendation is to divide up work activities so managers and employees can specialize. If I were working in an automobile factory and I had to build a frame, paint the car, assemble the engine, and put on the tires, it would be very inefficient and take me forever. However, if I was given one task only, for instance, putting brakes and rotors on the axle, I would probably become very skilled at that. Therefore, Fayol asserts that organizations need a division of labor to operate at peak performance. The second principle of general management is to ensure there is hierarchical leadership in an organization. This is pretty straightforward. Someone needs to be in charge to make sure things happen. On this point, Fayol makes a few observations that we need to keep in mind. First, there is formal authority, which is based on a title or position. And second, there is informal or personal authority, which is acquired through intelligence, experience, expertise, ability to influence others, etc. According to Fayol, both are needed to be effective. Also, if someone is leading an organization, it is imperative that there be followers who are willing to comply with orders. Leaders need to judge the performance of workers, and sanctions must take place, if required, to make sure expectations are being met. For instance, if an employee is always late to work or always taking breaks, the leader must assert his or her authority to stop this unacceptable behavior. The third principle of management is related to authority and responsibility, and it is to ensure that there is discipline within the organization. Fayol admired the military, and he asserted that discipline constitutes the chief strength of armies. In this regard, he is referring to obedience and action that is in accordance with the agreements between the firm and its employees. That is to say, the worker must adhere to expectations or performance. Otherwise, warnings, suspensions, demotions, and dismissal may need to occur to ensure the correct behavior on the part of the employees. Coming back to the example of the worker who arrives late and takes too many breaks, a leader may need to informally or formally counsel this individual. The manager may need to even write this person up and fire the employee. In essence, workers must comply with expectations of performance. The next principle Fayol advocates is unity of command. This suggests that you should have one immediate supervisor and that you should be given assignments from this person only. Have you ever been in a situation where two people are providing you different recommendations? It can cause complications. I remember while I was working on my dissertation, I received two helpful but contradictory pieces of advice from my committee members. I forget the exact details, but I recall feeling torn between trying to meet both expectations. In my mind, they ran counter to one another. I had to talk to my committee members to ensure everyone was on the same page. Workers are similar. They need clear directions from one supervisor so they will be most effective. Another principle discussed by Fayol is the unity of direction. Simply put, this means that there is a clear overarching goal for the organization. For example, the purpose of one company is to manufacture and sell widgets. The objective of another business is to sell motorcycles. A bank may be interested in making money by providing loans to those that want to purchase a car or a house. The whole point is that everyone in the organization knows what the overall goal is and how their role helps to fulfill that purpose. So, we definitely want people to work together towards a common goal, but we have to be careful to avoid creating a dictatorship. Fayol's sixth principle of management is to subordinate individual interests in favor of the goals of the organization. His argument is that employees must align their actions with the unity of direction discussed earlier. So, if an employee is always talking to others and not working to create widgets, the level of productivity is going down in the business. Therefore, this employee's desire to socialize must be kept in check to ensure the number of expected widgets are produced on a daily basis. The next principle is remuneration, which implies compensation to employees for fulfilling their work obligations. We all have expenses in life, food, clothing, rent, or a mortgage, so we need to earn a living through work that we are employed in. Fayol notes if a company provides fair or generous wages, whether it is the salary, benefits, or retirement, it will typically attract better employees. Conversely, a business that does not adequately compensate employees will struggle to find workers. This is easy to understand. The average worker seeks several jobs over his or her lifetime to make more money. Businesses and companies must keep this in mind. The eighth principle of management is centralization. Fayol compares an organization to the brain of an animal. The brain, or the directive part, sends out orders so movement of body function occurs in an elephant or a dog. In an organization, the leader or executive board directs what each component of the organization does, whether that pertains to research and development, procurement, logistics, sales, etc. While Fayol favors centralization, he says there has to be the right balance in terms of quantity and initiative. You need to have the right number of managers versus workers, and there needs to be a give and take of ideas on how to make the organization work best. As this meme notes, we have to be careful about having the right level of centralization. Ninth, Fayol suggests that organizations must have a hierarchy for the purpose of supervision as well as for communications. Generally speaking, an employee should talk to his or her direct supervisor about issues, and the supervisor in turn should talk directly to his or her employee. This limits confusion. However, Fayol admits that this is not always the swiftest method, and the chain of command can even result in organizational disasters if important information is not quickly shared with others. He says, "It is an error to depart needlessly from the line of authority, but it is an even greater one to keep to it when detrimental to the business." The 10th principle of management espoused by Fayol is order. This relates to both the physical and social order of organizations. Let me explain. If I was in charge of managing a lumber yard, I would want to make sure I have separated 2x4s, 2x6s, 2x12s, and also keep plywood in a different location than the area designated for beams. This would help workers know where to access the type of wood they need for a customer. The organization of wood increases efficiency. The same is true with an organization. The different positions for the organization have to be identified. Then, the posts need to be filled by employees, and each employee occupies the post where he or she can render the best service. Fayol says a chart of the organization makes the establishment and control of the human arrangement much easier. Unlike this picture, there is definitely a benefit to having order in an organization. Another principle is that of equity. Fayol believes that in order for an employee to carry out their duties with devotion and loyalty, they must be treated with respect, kindness, and justice. Let me come back to the employee that arrives late or is a poor performer every day. If this person is the boss's son, and he gets away with this behavior, the others will notice and become frustrated. Therefore, the rules must apply equally to each person. There shall be no favoritism. For Fayol, having well-trained employees who remain in positions for lengthy periods of time is preferred. This applies to both managers and workers. The longer they are in a position, the more effective they will be at doing their jobs. Change of personnel is inevitable, of course, as there will be departures, promotions, illness, retirements, and death that make rotation of people likely. But, according to Fayol, time is needed to get to know employees and how things run. Initiative is the penultimate principle of management discussed by Fayol. Initiative is basically critical thinking that leads to the creation and implementation of a plan to accomplish goals. For Fayol, this is one of the strongest determinants of organizational success. If employees and managers take initiative, things will get done and likely get done to the most optimal level possible. Initiative is a double-edged sword, however. One of the challenges organizations face is initiative. Leaders want employees to take initiative, but only if it works and does not violate policies and procedures. Fayol's final principle of management is Esprit de Corps. I probably pronounced that incorrectly, but what it implies is a sense of unity among everyone in the organization. There should be no dissension among subordinates. Efforts should be made to ensure everyone gets along as friends and coworkers. You don't want team members to have arguments, and you don't want bad feelings to exist between managers and workers. This will automatically hurt the organization. Thus, an important goal is to make sure that there is a harmonious culture in the organization. So, an important priority of an organization is to create a welcoming environment for employees. This type of attitude in this meme does not help, though. At the conclusion of Fayol's work, he admits that many other principles could be added to the list, but he also implies that the principles he shares are indispensable for any type of management concern, whether it's commerce, industry, politics, religion, war, or philanthropy. He believes if these principles are applied, organizations will typically be effective at reaching their goals. Before we move on, let's take a moment to reflect on the strengths and weaknesses of Fayol's work. Fayol's work is a well-known component of scientific management. It facilitates organization, promotes the team, and may motivate employees. However, some suggest that it's too prescriptive, that it's only applied to formal organizations, and that it concentrates too much on managers and downplays the needs of workers. Besides Fayol, there are some other well-known classical theorists of organizational behavior. Two of them are Gulick and Lyndall Urwick. These individuals developed the POSDCORB model as a way to help develop public service professionals. POSDCORB stands for planning, organizing, staffing, directing, coordinating, reporting, and budgeting. Let's discuss each one in turn. For Gulick and Urwick, the first phase of administration is planning. This entails identifying the objectives of the organization and then determining how those goals might be reached. For instance, let's say I was appointed as the Director of Public Works for my local jurisdiction. One of my goals might be to improve the quality of our roads and ensure that repairs or replacement is done correctly, quickly, and in a cost-effective manner. I would need to identify a plan to make that happen. Planning is really an essential activity for any organization. If there is no goal and no method for achieving it, success will be jeopardized. The next phase is organizing. This is basically specifying who is going to do what. For instance, as the Public Works Director, I would probably need different units in my organization. One to identify transportation needs, another to carry out replacement or repairs, and a different group to maintain equipment. If this were a large organization, I might need an org chart with various leaders over different components of the organization. Once we have identified goals and created an organizational structure, the next step is to find staff to fulfill our objectives. Of course, this could be contracted out to a private company, but it could also be done in-house. If this were the case, as the Public Works Director, I would need to hire an engineer to design roads, drivers to bring the asphalt, and a variety of workers to grade the road, use the paver to lay the asphalt, and others to run the roller to flatten it out. Then I would need another group to paint the stripes. Meanwhile, different employees would be needed to place and pick up barricades or cones. Others would be used to flag or direct traffic. Unfortunately, it seems as if many organizations like to run lean. This can really create some hurt feelings for those working in the company or government agency. It should be avoided if possible. Directing is the next step of POSDCORB. Gulick and Urwick indicate that employees must be given clear instructions so organizational goals will be met. As the Public Works Director, I may need to train my employees to know how to operate the heavy equipment and help them to understand how to perform their job safely. I would also need to give them the schedule of repairs and locations of projects. Coordinating is the next component of POSDCORB. This includes a delegation of responsibility to each unit to fulfill their duty to the overall goal of the organization. To come back to my public works example, I would need to make sure that the road is cordoned off so workers can fix any damages. Once this is done, the grading of the road will occur before we lay the asphalt. Then, I would want painters to add the stripes. Afterwards, the barricades and cones need to be collected, and a new project begins somewhere else. Reporting is another phase of POSDCORB. This suggests that employees and managers are sharing information about how things are going. As the Public Works Director, I may find out that a water main has been broken during a scheduled road repair. This may require me to talk to the water department and adjust anticipated completion deadlines. Finally, the last step, according to Gulick and Urwick, is to monitor expenses. My goal as the Public Works Director is not only to build and repair roads, but do so in a fiscally responsible manner. I have to make sure I do not spend more than my allotted budget for the year. This may require me to make more repairs instead of replacements, or postpone some activities until the next fiscal year. All too often, organizations run on limited funding. This may require some creative problem solving, as this cartoon shows. The POSDCORB model has been a popular feature of organizational behavior theory. It is a well-known component of scientific management, and it reiterates the unity of purpose as well as span of control. However, some suggest that it's too rigid or that it's overly simplified. In short, these two theories of organizational behavior provide the science of management. But management is also an art, and we'll talk more about that at a later date. I hope this video was useful. If so, please give a like. Best regards and best wishes.